133, 135. Welcome, everyone. Today, we have excellent speakers, and we're really happy to have you back in here. Welcome to the American Continent Seminar, Global Health, the SGDs, and Dentistry. I'm Dr. Lily Pinson. I'm Section Head of Public Health and Global Health at the University of Utah School of Dentistry, and I'm co-director of the American Global Health Seminar, created by the Schools of Dentistry from University of Utah and Universidad de Antioquia. This is our sixth session of this seminar, and in this session we will cover the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which is global health and well-being, but we will focus today in dentistry, contribution to global health, and the SGDs. Today's objective is to contextualize the agenda of the International Dental Federation 2030 and the expected impact. Now I want to my colleague Iris to talk in Spanish about the same thing.
Bienvenidas y bienvenidos al Seminario del Continente Americano, la Salud Global, los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible y la Odontología. Yo soy Iris Espinosa, soy profesora de la Facultad de Odontología de la Universidad de Chile, una de las facultades coorganizadoras del Seminario del Continente Americano, creado por las facultades de Odontología de la Universidad de Antioquia y la Universidad de Utah, codirigido por las doctoras Gloria Álvarez y Lilian Pinzón. Esta es ya la sexta versión de nuestro seminario. En esta sesión abordaremos el Objetivo de Desarrollo Sostenible número 3 de las Naciones Unidas, buena salud y bienestar, pero nos centraremos en odontología y su contribución a salud global y los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. El objetivo de hoy es contextualizar la agenda de la Federación Dental Internacional, FDI 2030, y el impacto esperado. Bienvenidos a todos.
Thank you, Iris. We want you to be aware that we have simultaneous translation. Please click on the globe icon on the in your respective screen. In the bottom part, you're gonna see a little globe icon. You can click on it and pick the language that you prefer. We have Spanish and speaking translators. Yeah, it is.
Queremos contarles que tenemos traducción simultánea. Por favor, dale clic al icono del mundo y escoge el idioma que prefieras. Los invitamos a realizar sus preguntas en el chat de la plataforma Zoom, y si existe alguna inquietud, por favor escribirla en el chat y nuestros auxiliares les podrán colaborar con cualquier duda.
We appreciate your attendance and want to contextualize the lessons learned from the previous session. So Dr. Platero from the University of Mendoza, Argentina, will share with us the lessons learned from session 5. Please activate the simultaneous translation if necessary. So remember, it's an icon that is in your screen up below. It says interpretation. Pick the language. He's going to speak in Spanish, so if you're an English speaker, please speak English. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr.
¿Qué tal? Buenas noches, un placer. Muchas gracias. Vamos a leer, como bien decías, las lecciones aprendidas de la quinta sesión del 27 de julio del año 2022. El día 27 de julio del año 2022 se llevó a cabo la quinta sesión del Seminario Global del Continente Americano, titulado COVID-19 y seguridad del paciente odontológico en América, ética durante la pandemia. La sesión se llevó a cabo en la plataforma de la carrera de Odontología de la Facultad de Ciencias de la Salud, Universidad de Mendoza, Argentina. El objetivo de dicha sesión fue exponer e informar sobre las distintas experiencias que se tuvieron con los pacientes odontológicos en las universidades de América, contemplando estrategias éticas durante la pandemia COVID-19. Los distintos ponentes de esta quinta sesión transmitieron conceptualmente la ética como una disciplina conformada por principios morales que gobiernan nuestras decisiones y acciones. Esta disciplina es la que nos debe guiar en la forma en que nos comportamos en los diferentes escenarios de la vida diaria y en cómo nos relacionamos como seres humanos. Para entender y adaptarse a las situaciones creadas por la pandemia, las universidades americanas tuvieron que realizar un proceso de análisis del contexto internacional y nacional ante la contingencia sanitaria. Las diferentes facultades de odontología evaluaron las necesidades de capacitación, educación e infraestructura y equipamiento de acuerdo a los recursos financieros. También establecieron planes pilotos de atención clínica de pregrado, posgrado e implementaron los planes pilotos posteriormente como acciones definitivas de atención dependiendo de su efectividad, para finalmente incorporarlas al plan de retorno de las actividades académicas. También se informó sobre el riesgo financiero y el acceso a servicios de salud esenciales de calidad y seguros. Lo descrito tuvo como objetivo brindar al profesional odontólogo las herramientas para poder lograr una atención de calidad y seguridad al paciente odontológico. Para esto se tuvo que profundizar sobre la calidad desde la perspectiva del paciente, la seguridad del paciente como la reducción de riesgo de daño innecesario relacionados con la atención sanitaria hasta un mínimo establecido y evitar daños asociados a esa atención sanitaria. Por lo tanto, se tuvo que establecer una determinación de riesgo epidemiológico en pandemia, teniendo en cuenta que el riesgo epidemiológico a la atención en la clínica es alto, ya que se trabaja en la cavidad oral y se realizan procedimientos generadores de aerosoles, lo que conlleva a tomar varias medidas generales en el área clínica, en el área administrativa, en los laboratorios y en los espacios comunes, a fin de ofrecer un servicio de calidad y seguridad para el personal de la facultad y, por lo tanto, a sus pacientes. Para concluir la quinta sesión de nuestro Seminario Global del Continente Americano, podríamos decir que las diferentes facultades de odontología orientaron sus soluciones frente a la pandemia basadas en experiencias con mayor éxito, que se vieron como un camino de aprendizaje para enfrentar las situaciones con tenacidad, excelencia y para poder brindar una atención al paciente odontológico de alta calidad, seguridad, profesionalismo y ética en épocas de COVID. Eso es lo que aprendimos. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Dr. Platero. Thank you, Dr. Platero. Okay, so the following talks will be in English. Please activate the simultaneous translation if needed. And if you have any questions, please follow the steps provided in the chat in English and Spanish. Just give us your questions in Q&A or in the chat, okay? So our first speaker is Dr. Richard Watt. He graduated from the University Edinburgh Dental School and then completed a Master's of Science and PhD in Dental Public Health from University College of London. Dr. Watt is a professor and honorary consultant in dental public health at the UCL in UK. He's the director of the World Health Organization Collaboration Center on Oral Health Inequities and Public Health, and is also director of research, development and innovation for Central Northwest London HSS Foundation Trust. His main research interests focus on social and commercial determinants of oral health, inequalities in oral health, and development and evaluation of community-based oral health improvement interventions. He is the joint founder of the International Center of Oral Health Inequities, Research and Policy. Dr. Watt has already achieved about 11 million pounds in research grants from a wide variety of national and international funding agencies, published about 197 peer-reviewed publications. In 2019, he led the publication of Lancet series on oral health and is the co-chair of the new Lancet Commission in Oral Health. Let's welcome Dr. Watt. Thank you so much for being here. We know it's really late or early now in London, so we really appreciate that you are here with us.
Okay, so hola and muchas gracias for the introduction and invitation. It is midnight in London, so I've had a sleep and I've woken up, so I should feel good now. So let me firstly share my slides. And the first thing to say is it is amazing to see so many people on the seminar. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, so it's amazing to see we've got 374 participants, which is very, very impressive. And I'd like to congratulate the organizers for the seminar to bring together people from across North, Central, and South Americas is a great idea. And I sort of wish I was in Americas, but I'm in London, Europe, so here I am. So what I'm going to do for the next 15 minutes or so is just a very brief overview of my perspective in terms of what is happening for global oral health and how important the opportunities are at present for us all globally, across the Americas and elsewhere globally. And a phrase that is used quite frequently, but I think it captures the moment very well, is this statement from the Lancet editorial in 2019, oral health is at a tipping point. And by tipping point, what we mean is it's an opportunity of a lifetime to move forward with oral health within a public health, global health, and international agenda. It is a very special moment, which I think we need to be aware of and take this opportunity as we move forwards. So what I think the reason that we are at a tipping point is the broad recognition now of the public health importance of oral diseases amongst a range of very important stakeholders internationally. And as in my introduction, it was mentioned, a group of us in 2019 published the Lancet series in oral health. And in that Lancet series in oral health, what the essential message that we communicated via the Lancet journal was the global public health importance of oral diseases. And that really is encapsulated by the front cover of Lancet that really highlighted, and essentially in 3 words, oral health matters. That really, as a global agenda, oral health needs to be considered and needs to be one of the priorities moving forwards. And what we did in that Lancet series was really highlight, using at that point the latest data from the Global Burden of Disease study, to show globally the high prevalence of oral diseases. And if we look at this global map here, we can see that South America, Central America, and North America, the prevalence of oral diseases is significant. And globally, we have at least 3.5 billion people affected by oral conditions across the world. So our conditions of the mouth and teeth are highly prevalent, affecting from children all the way to older people and older adults, progressive conditions affecting across the life course. Another important message that we communicated in the Lancet series was the inequalities agenda in terms of the social patterning of oral diseases. And we all in this call, probably almost 400 of us, will know from our own countries, our own communities, the different patterns of inequalities that exist, but the pervasive association between low socioeconomic status and poor oral health is a consistent and universal pattern across the globe and is a real challenge in terms of public health policy and prevention. What we also communicated in the Lancet series was the very strong evidence now of the impact of oral diseases, both at an individual level, at a family and community level, and also at a societal level. So on this slide, we can highlight the different types of impacts that oral diseases have in terms of pain, discomfort, functional limitation, etc., etc. And one illustration, just as a slide I often use, this is some data from the US, looking at a survey conducted by Health Policy Institute a few years ago, 2016, and it demonstrated that almost a third of low-income adults in the US reported that their mouth and teeth affected their ability to interview for a job. So it's a nice illustration of the broader impacts of poor oral health in terms of people's educational and employment opportunities. So that broader societal impact is illustrated nicely in this particular example. This next slide just highlights the economic impact of oral diseases, and our colleague, Professor Stefan Listel from the University of in Netherlands, calculated economic costs of oral diseases across the European Union, and oral diseases, dental diseases came out third at 90 billion euros, only behind cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. So the economic costs to our healthcare systems across the world, again, oral diseases come out very highly in terms of their costs. So all of that data really presents a very compelling argument that oral diseases really are a global public health problem. The next important item for us to highlight is to understand the social and commercial determinants of that disease burden. And what we presented in the Lancet series is a combined social and commercial determinants model, a framework to contextualize the range of proximal, behavioral and biological factors that are influenced by intermediate determinants, the social position, circumstances in which people are found, that ultimately are determined by the structural determinants, the socioeconomic, political and environmental context as the driving forces of disease patterns in our population. But what was quite important is that we combine that social determinants model with this commercial determinants analysis, looking at how corporate strategies influence health and ultimately determine disease patterns. And for those of you that are not so familiar with what we call the commercial determinants of health, that's a useful definition as strategies and approaches used by the private sector to promote products and choices that are detrimental to health. So this is looking at the harmful effects of corporate activities. Clearly, there are some beneficial effects of corporate activities, and that's a separate analysis, but we're particularly looking at the harmful, negative, and detrimental effects of commercial activities. And a good way of communicating this, and this is again, the Lancet communication team produced nice infographics, and this just illustrates the economic power and influence of big sugar internationally, and just gives some indications of the amount of money and resource that different companies such as Coca-Cola, PepsiCo are spending either across Africa or across India, in contrast to what the WHO budget in total was in 2017, just to give a sense of the magnitude of economic power of these transglobal corporations. So the other important message that we've communicated in our Lancet papers and are now moving forwards in other work is the need for system change in oral health systems around the world. And we made quite a powerful statement to say that dentistry is in a state of crisis, which is quite a powerful message, but I think it's an accurate statement to summarize the challenges we face in dentistry around the globe. And in the interest of limited time, the limitations of the current dental healthcare systems globally, we could have a whole seminar, a whole discussion on those, but the overemphasis on treatment and lack of prevention, the mismatch between the needs and the availability and location of services, the ways in which payment systems often incentivize intervention and treatment as opposed to observation and prevention, the dental silo in which we often are found. So as oral health professionals, we're often separated and isolated from our colleagues in primary care and medical system more generally. Poor planning and downstream prevention, again, major limitations. So moving forwards, what the agenda needs to increasingly focus on is using what we call the common risk factor approach in terms of prevention and policy, looking at how our conditions of caries, periodontal disease, trauma, oral cancers, how the risk factors for our diseases are shared with non-communicable diseases more generally, such as diabetes, obesity, cancers, etc., and the need for an integrated approach to prevention rather than a separated, siloed approach. So what we need are stronger policies to address the determinants of oral diseases. We need to constantly consider how we move upstream in terms of our policy agendas, what actions we need to do to mitigate the influence of commercial determinants, what actions we need to reduce inequalities in our communities, and how we can ensure healthy settings in our local communities, and of course, promote universal access to fluorides as a key element of prevention. So in this slide here is just a translation of McKinley's upstream downstream metaphor as applied to oral health, so that the importance of downstream prevention is important. So that's looking at the use of evidence-based guidelines for our dental teams. That's the importance of skill mix. Not only dentists, but the wider team need to be involved in prevention based upon contemporary evidence. We need midstream interventions that are looking at how we can improve the settings and communities in which our populations are living, working, studying, etc. And then also we need these upstream policies, which are about regulation, legislation, fiscal pricing policies, the importance of these as ultimate policy objectives. So let's now very quickly finish off by looking at some of the global policy developments in oral health that are happening now, which I think are giving us such an exciting period internationally for the oral health agenda. So, what we have to absolutely do is embed all our developments, all our initiatives within the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think it's really wonderful that your seminar series is using the SDG agenda to contextualize action to promote oral health. And your future seminars are looking at different opportunities, but the SDGs really have to be our guiding principles for what we're all trying to do. What we're going to hear in a minute from our colleagues from the FDI is that the World Dental Federation, with their Vision 2030 and other developments, internationally, dental associations are moving forwards into this public health space, and we'll hear more about that from our colleagues in a minute. What we can also hear mentioned is following the publication of the Lancet series, Carol Guarneria Hereño, myself are co-leads of the Lancet Commission on Oral Health. So that has now been working for the last 18 months or so. And a Lancet Commission really is a scientific review, inquiry and response to an urgent and often neglected health predicament. And Lancet Commissions really are about a scientific international collaboration that are looking to achieve transformational change. And we collectively are working in the space and will produce more details as we move forward. But probably most importantly for all of us, is what's happening at the WHO in Geneva and internationally in relation to oral health. And for the first time in decades, oral health has now been given a recognition as an important element of WHO's agenda. So only just over a year ago, in January 2021, at the 148th Executive Board meeting, the resolution on oral health was agreed. So we had 42 countries, member states, and Sri Lanka in Southeast Asia was a key element in that, but I'm sure there were a lot of South American, Central American countries involved as well. So that resolution was agreed by the Executive Board, and now, and these slides come from Benoit Barrien at WHO, so many thanks to Benoit for these slides. We then had the very recently publication agreement of the Global Strategy on Oral Health, which sets out an ambition and vision and goals for oral health across the world. That has now been published and is available to all of us through the WHO website. And that global strategy in oral health has 6 strategic objectives around governance, around prevention, around workforce, around healthcare systems, information and research. So all of our agendas now need to be influenced by this global strategy on oral health. And in this year, 2022, in a few months' time, we will have the Global Oral Health Report will be published, which will include for the first time oral health country profiles of each country across the United Nations. And literally this month, the draft Global Oral Health Action Plan has been published. And I ask all of you to look at the WHO site, and the consultation is now open for comments on the Global Oral Health Action Plan. And I know Benoit and his colleagues very much want us all to comment on this action plan. So I'm not going to actually do this because we're running out of time. So I think to finish, what I'd like to say is that oral health really is at a tipping point on the international global health agenda. There's a huge range of global, national, and local opportunities ahead to promote oral health and reform healthcare systems. The importance of advocacy to support policy change is fundamental, and we as dentists, dental professionals, either individually or collectively, have a key role in supporting these changes. And I think that my most important message is that we have an important role to support the World Health Organization in the efforts they are currently doing. So please do comment on the consultation on the Global Oral Health Action Plan that is currently available. So thank you very much for your attention. And I now want to hear the other presenters, and then we can take questions, etc. So many thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Watt, for your wonderful presentation and sharing all this knowledge with us and the whole story about Lancet committee. Now Iris is going to introduce the Dean of the University of Chile.
Thank you, Dr. Watt, for your message. The Lancet work and your previous research has been an inspiration for us. And and for our work in inequalities of oral health in Chile, Colombia, in other countries of Latin America. Quiero darle la bienvenida a la decana de nuestra Facultad de Odontología de la Universidad de Chile, la doctora Irene Morales Bozo, quien está siendo nuestra sede anfitriona para este seminario.
Muy buenas tardes a todas y todos los presentes. Quiero dar la más cordial bienvenida a esta actividad. Como decana de la Facultad de Odontología de la Universidad de Chile, manifiesto la gran responsabilidad que representa para nuestra institución la participación como coorganizadores del Seminario de Salud Global, Odontología y Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible. La Agenda para el Desarrollo Sostenible de la Organización Mundial de la Salud, concretamente en su tercer objetivo, plantea para la odontología el desafío de proporcionar una salud bucodental para todos. En sus tres pilares centrales, plantea que para el 2023 primero, los servicios de salud bucodental estén integrados en la atención sanitaria. Segundo, la atención de la salud bucodental y general centrada en las personas estén integradas. Y tercero, los profesionales de la atención bucodental colaboren con una amplia variedad de trabajadores sanitarios para garantizar una atención sanitaria sostenible basada en las necesidades de salud y centrada en las personas. Este último punto, particularmente en la educación, se plantea que para el 2030 los profesionales de la salud contarán con los conocimientos, las habilidades y los atributos necesarios para contribuir de manera adecuada a la prevención y el manejo eficaces de las enfermedades bucodentales y que para que las distintas disciplinas de atención sanitaria trabajen en conjunto a fin de mejorar la salud y el bienestar. Esta agenda plantea un tremendo desafío importante para las universidades en su rol formador de profesionales y cómo se incorporan estas capacidades en los planes curriculares. Destaca además la trascendencia de la participación de las facultades de odontología de Antioquia, UTA y de Chile como coorganizadores de este seminario. Espero que esta actividad colabore en fortalecer el compromiso de cada uno de ustedes con los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible desde la odontología en todos sus niveles, en cualquier lugar que les toque a ustedes abordar esta temática. Muchísimas gracias a todos y espero el mayor de los éxitos en el desarrollo de esta actividad. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, doctora Morales, por sus palabras. Thank you so much, Dr. Morales. Now we're going to continue with some of our speakers. I want you all to welcome Dr. Iyarok B. It's difficult for me to pronounce his last name. He obtained his dental degree at the University of Lagos, also fellowship in restorative dentistry at the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. He is currently a faculty member at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, and he's the FDI World Dental Federation President, Africa Regional Organization, a member of the Public Health Committee of the FDI. He held other important positions as a national coordinator, FDI Unilever, Brush Day and Night, Oral Health Education and Promotion Program. He's chair Budget Reference Committee, the Budget Reference Committee, and the FDI World Dental Federation, and coordinator of other programs at the FDI. Let's welcome him. Thank you so much, Dr. Ola, for being here. We know that you're in Nigeria and it's quite late or early right now for you.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be with everyone here today. It's a lovely session we've been having, even though it's quite late, like you mentioned, in Nigeria right now. Unlike Professor Watt, I haven't had some good time to sleep, but I believe we should be able to get some good things out of this presentation. And thanks for the lovely audience that we have and the wonderful organization to put together all these presentations. So I'll be talking about bridging the gap of oral health and general health generally. I mean, from the perspective of the World Dental Federation, and from my experience of the projects that we've executed. Of course, I'm also a member of the Public Health Committee of the World Dental Federation, so we've had to execute a lot of projects in the process of trying to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal. Of course, we know, as highlighted by Professor Watt, that there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And the main one that is of importance to us is the SDG 3, which says good health and well-being. And that's where we come into it. As a matter of fact, in FDI, we always look at ways by which oral health can be integrated in general health. And we also know that there are non-communicable diseases which share the same common risk factors with oral diseases. As we all know, we talk about the non-communicable diseases as cancer, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, chronic respiratory diseases, mental and neurological disorders. These are the very common non-communicable diseases. With the oral health diseases and sharing these common risk factors, of course, sugar has been highly implicated in some of these, as a positive factor in some of these conditions that we're talking about. So our objective in FDI is to contextualize the agenda of the FDI 2030 and the expected impacts. Of course, integrating it with the Sustainable Development Goal 3, as I said earlier on. As the case is, we all know that oral health affects all races. And generally, it is known worldwide, and especially in Africa, that very common oral diseases are dental caries and periodontal diseases. Those are the foremost oral conditions that we have. And like I said earlier, we have a link between these conditions and the non-communicable disease. And FDI is currently working with the NCD's agenda as declared in Article 19. Because during the meeting held in New York, and in the African region, a lot of the population suffer some of these conditions. And as much as possible in FDI, we're trying to bridge the gap between the access to good oral health care in order to improve oral conditions. And attaining the FDA Vision 2030, which we all know and as highlighted earlier, which is optimal oral healthcare for all, needs active intervention. I mean, purpose-driven intervention to be able to actualize the Sustainable Development Goal 3 and side by side with the Vision 2030 of the FDI. There are various challenges to good oral health.
Are you going to use your PowerPoint presentation?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Are you going to use your PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, can't you see it?
We don't see that it's moving forward.
Wow.
Please click on the slideshow first, and then it's no moving forward. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me share again. Hold on, please.
Sometimes we have just like bad internet connection. Okay, so now
can
we
see?
can see it. Yes, we can see it perfectly. Thank you.
Can you see now?
Yes.
Is it moving now?
It's moving. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So, like I was saying, we have various challenges to good oral health. And first and foremost is, especially in the African region, we have a lot of issues. I'm sure world over, a lot of people have been hearing about the fact that Africa lacks adequate health facilities and staffing. And we also have expensive dental services with poor health insurance scheme. And these are all militating factors against good oral health care. And if we all know very well, in Africa, apart from the other regions of the world, we have the highest number of out-of-school children. And that is not far-fetched from, I mean, that's as a result of a lot of health conditions and also issues related to terrorism, internal displacement, political instability, and then most especially, a lot of our leaders don't have the political willingness, and because they don't see oral health as a major issue, rather they may focus more on general health. So it's our duty and responsibility, as we're doing right now, to try and integrate oral health into general health, and at the same time also promote oral health in policy formulation. It may be a bit difficult, but we're trying to, as much as possible, through well-coordinated activities, to draw the attention of the leaders to the importance of oral health as a major part of general health. And we have identified a lot of vulnerable groups in Africa, and this include women, the children, individuals living with disabilities, internally displaced individuals as a result of war, terrorism, and a lot of weather changes and climatic disruptions in normal lifestyle. Also, we have issues with the elderly and individuals living in care homes, the elderly, and these are all people we have identified as vulnerable groups. And we have target projects, which is aimed at reaching these people to try and enhance oral health care amongst especially these vulnerable groups. And we have employed a lot of strategies to be able to achieve this. I mean, to bridge the gap between oral health and general health, and at the same time, accessibility to oral healthcare services by the population, especially the identified vulnerable groups, in order to be able to actualize the SDG 3 and then Vision 2030 of the World Dental Federation, FDI. So our strategies are aimed towards oral health policy, school-based risk approach, community approach, and lately teledentistry. For the oral health policy, a lot of countries don't have established oral health policies, especially with reference to the deployment of oral care services to try and equilibrate between the areas where you have good oral health services and where areas where accessibility is limited. And that's where we've been trying to make a lot of focus. in Nigeria, my country, we had an oral health policy which was formulated in the year 2020. But because of lack of political willpower, there hasn't been much as regards the implementation of this national oral health policy. And in other countries in Africa, this is also being replicated. But lately, we've been able to make a lot of inroads into the government circles through the Minister of Health to revise the 2012 National Oral Health Policy. And the main crux, and what we're trying to achieve right now is we have local government areas in Nigeria where we have what we call primary healthcare centers. And these are the outposts that are closest to the less privileged or the hinterlands or the villages, and where we have the lack of oral health care is highly pronounced. And our efforts in that regard is to ensure that there is incorporation of dental care in that silo of what we call primary healthcare system, such that as medical access is being made into these communities, we also have an aspect of oral health incorporated into that. And we talk about the local government system and the wards, such that people who are living in rural areas and communities which are far from the cities where we have established dental centers and clinics, through the local government system, and with the incorporation of oral healthcare into the national oral health policy, we're able to get across to them. Now, for the school-based risk approach, we do carry out outreach programs to schools, especially for children within the school age bracket of age 8 to 13. We believe, and with the assistance of a lot of sponsors through the World Dental Federation program and through public health committee programs of the World Dental Federation, we believe we have an acronym we call Catch Them Young, whereby we believe good oral health education, prevention, and programs aimed at dissemination of oral health information. We're able to inculcate a preventive aspect of oral health care to the young generation. And by the time they imbibe this, by virtue of observing the cardinal points of oral health care, which is practically good diet, visit to their dental care facilities at least once every 6 months for proper dental checkup, such that where oral health care diseases are developing, they're properly taken care of in time before it becomes full-blown and becomes a major issue. So, and then we talk about also the consumption of wholesome diet and reduction in consumption of refined sugar, as you have in soda, and just like Professor Watt said, high sugar containing diets like Coke and what have you. I'm sorry, I'm mentioning brand names, but that's as it's made. These are our aims and objectives. So with that, we're able to carry on the message of oral health care to the young ones, and by extension to the vulnerable groups as well. And that's one of the approaches to bridge gap between the oral healthcare systems in our country. We also go out to the communities, like the marketplaces, the churches, and the religious bodies, and internal displaced camps, where we carry on the messages of oral health care. And like I said, recently, especially in the FDI, we are trying to imbibe the teledentistry approach, latching on information technology, where we know that the average person in the population has access to mobile phone, and through that, we'll be able to reach the population with a message of oral healthcare provision, good oral healthcare, and then be able to point out where they can access oral health care and treatment where need be. So these are some of the areas we have been trying to focus on as strategies to bridge the gap for oral health care provision in our country. And like I said earlier, we've tried to make an inroad into national oral health policy. And that is what we've also tried as much as possible to encourage other African countries to imbibe. And we believe that if the government we are able to draw the attention of the government into focusing on oral health care as an integral part of general health care, it will go a long way in making sure that there is a good access to good oral health care within the population, whether within the community, the rural communities or the urban centers. So we believe also with the oral health policy, the strengthening of the national hierarchy, both at the national and the local levels. I've talked about the incorporation of the oral healthcare into the primary healthcare system as we have in Nigeria as one of the areas whereby we believe to give good access to oral healthcare within the rural communities. We've also engaged in oral health promotion, which is into many aspects. And of course, in many African countries, such as Nigeria, there's a higher tendency to get involved in emergency and curative dental diseases rather than preventive services. But we are trying to redirect that focus to prevention, such that at least we believe once this, with the oral healthcare information dissemination and oral health promotion, we're able to reduce the high incidence of oral healthcare emergencies and curative dental services. And that would also help in bridging the gap, as I mentioned earlier. Be that as it may, we've also been involved in school-based approach, as I mentioned earlier. We've also tried as much as possible, apart from a high tax cut on sugar-based diets, we are trying as much as possible to get government to ban sugar-containing snacks, especially during school hours. And we're also trying to get the government to increase the tax, which is placed on high sugar-containing, refined sugar-containing diets. And trying to get the oral health education incorporated into the school curriculum, such that it's being taught at schools generally, to get the pupils to get to understand the importance of oral health care as an integral part of general health care. And here are some of the pictures of some of our outreach program. We've had to use a mobile dental clinic in one of the states in Nigeria, Lagos State. We get to use the mobile dental clinic to carry on oral health information dissemination. And then in the mobile dental clinic, we also have facilities in there where, when necessary, we get to carry out treatment protocols. On the right side, you can see school children being taught about good oral health care. We demonstrate to them about brushing their teeth twice daily. In practical terms, using models, show to them how to brush their teeth as a preventive measure. Last thing, when they go to bed and after their morning meal, we also get to distribute toothbrushes and toothpaste, fluoride-containing toothpastes as part of our school outreach program. This in order to encourage them to imbibe the message of good oral health care. Community approach, like I said earlier, also incorporates some of these processes whereby we raise awareness in communities, and government policies are aimed at reducing risk behaviors such as ban on tobacco and use of alcohol consumption. We also educate, stakeholders in local communities, like the leaders, the chiefs, the heads of the local communities. We get to educate them because they serve as role models to other people in the community. I mean, people tend to believe them more when they speak to the people and all that than just getting them together to talk about oral health care. Unlike other medical issues such as HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and a lot of other medical conditions, we've tried as much as possible to dedicate programs in oral health care and programs and all that in various ways to reach the communities. I've mentioned teledentistry before, and we are making frantic efforts to get that incorporated into the oral healthcare systems in various African countries, because we believe it will help a lot in our preventive measures and passing on the message of oral healthcare to the communities. These are some of the ways by which we've tried as much as possible to reach out and bridge the gap and achieve or actualize the SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. And of course, at the same time, trying to achieve the FDI 2030 objective of oral healthcare. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ola, for sharing with us what are your efforts in Africa to achieve the 2030 goals and beyond in the same path with the UN Sustainable Development Goal. Dr. Iris, you want to continue?
Thank you, Dr. Ijerote, for your excellent presentation and share your experience and work in Africa. A continuación, la siguiente presentación será en español. Por favor, active la traducción simultánea y si tiene alguna pregunta la puede dejar en la plataforma. Recuerde también completar la encuesta de satisfacción. Necesitamos su opinión para mejorar esta maravillosa experiencia. Escucharemos a continuación a la doctora Lupe Salazar Zurita. Ella es doctora en cirugía dental de la Facultad de Odontología de la Universidad de Panamá, especialista en docencia superior de la Facultad de Ciencias de la Educación de la Universidad de Panamá. También ella es licenciada en Derecho y Ciencias Políticas de la Universidad de Panamá, magíster en Prevención y Atención de la Violencia Intrafamiliar con enfoque de género por el Instituto de la Mujer y también magíster en Administración en Clínicas Odontológicas por la Universidad de Panamá. Actualmente ella es profesora titular de la Facultad de Odontología de la Universidad de Panamá, compartiendo también el ejercicio privado de su práctica profesional. Ella es presidenta regional latinoamericana de LARO, de FDI, presidente de la Federación Odontológica Latinoamericana, FOLA, y miembro del Comité Técnico de Evaluación de la Subdirección de la Educación Universitaria. Gracias, doctora, por su colaboración y bienvenida al seminario.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Muchas gracias por estar con ustedes. Voy a compartir pantalla.
Quiero agregar además que la doctora Lupe Salazar es miembro del grupo de universidades que son coorganizadoras y colaboradoras del seminario organizado, dirigido por la Universidad de Antioquia y la Universidad de Utah.
Sí, gracias. Bueno, para mí es un honor poder ser vocera de LARO, la Regional Latinoamericana adscrita a FDI. Nosotros vamos primero voy a presentarnos quiénes somos, cuál es nuestra estrategia que hemos realizado en estos años para poder contribuir a la salud global y al desarrollo de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Así que sin más voy a comenzar a explicarles y a presentarles que la regional latinoamericana LARO está conformada por la Confederación Odontológica de la República Argentina, el Colegio Odontólogo de Bolivia, la Asociación Brasileña de Cirujanos Dentistas, el Colegio de Cirujanos Dentistas de Chile, la Federación Odontológica Colombiana, el Colegio de Cirujanos Dentistas de Costa Rica, la Federación Odontológica Ecuatoriana, el Colegio Estomatológico de Guatemala, el Colegio de Cirujanos Dentistas de Honduras, el Colegio Odontológico Nicaragüense, la Asociación Odontológica Panameña, la Federación Odontológica del Paraguay y la Asociación Odontológica Uruguaya. Así que voy a hablarles y relatarles cómo nosotros estamos enfrentando los retos y este gran desafío que nos presenta la Visión 2030. Nosotros en el 2019 fue nuestra última Asamblea General de Delegados de forma presencial que se realizó en San Francisco en el marco del Congreso de FDI, porque las regionales, por estatuto, tenemos la obligación, dentro del marco de los congresos de FDI, tener asambleas de la región. En esta asamblea se nos presentó por parte de los profesores David Williams y Michael Click de FDI la Visión 2030, que es el tema de hoy. Además, aprovechamos siempre y presentamos unos informes de toda Latinoamérica, cómo han avanzado sobre temas anteriores. Y en este momento de esta reunión, hubo informe de cada uno de los presidentes, cómo habían avanzado en los acuerdos de la Convención de Minamata. Además, cómo habían abordado y qué protocolos estaban utilizando para las enfermedades crónicas no transmisibles. Y el tema de hoy es esta Visión 2030. Entonces, esto fue un gran reto para la regional porque es necesario que nosotros, cuando recibimos una Visión 2030, como recibimos la Visión 2020 y recibimos otro tipo de visiones o estrategias globales, nosotros tenemos que leer los documentos, tenemos que sensibilizarlos, porque si no quedan documentos muertos, letra muerta, como dicen los abogados. Y hablamos de ellos, Visión 2030, Visión 2020, Visión Alma Ata, o sea, nos dirigimos a los documentos, pero si tú le preguntas a la mayoría de los académicos y de nuestros estudiantes de qué tratan estas visiones, cuáles son los objetivos, muchos de ellos no han sido revisados. Entonces, esto es lo que se trata, estos tipos de seminarios. Estos tipos de seminarios es que los que asistan comiencen a leer el documento, vean las estrategias, conozcan los objetivos y no solamente que se refiera a Visión 2030, que nunca la lograron ni la van a lograr conseguir, porque siguen haciendo lo mismo, las mismas estrategias, tanto en los gremios, en las instituciones de salud y en la academia. Entonces, en esta reunión nosotros nos dimos cuenta que la Visión 2030 abarcaba unos retos muy importantes y que América Latina tenía que buscar estrategias y teníamos que hacer alianzas con otras regionales, sobre todo con la regional NARO, que es la regional norteamericana, que incluye a Canadá, a México y a Estados Unidos. Entonces hicimos una reunión en donde tratamos de que si ellos avanzaban con seminarios, con algún tipo de proyecto, que nos incluyéramos porque América era una sola.
Doctora Lupe.
Además, se presentó un proyecto por parte del Colegio Odontológico de Costa Rica, del Colegio Dentista de Costa Rica, un proyecto muy interesante que FDI lo va a sufragar sus gastos, que es la protección de salud oral dirigida a la población indígena de Cotobruz. Esto es muy importante y lo traigo para decirles que es que tenemos que participar y tenemos que hacer proyectos y tenemos que presentarlos, porque FDI, si uno presenta proyectos, ellos tienen recursos para poder ayudarnos a realizar estos proyectos en Latinoamérica, que ustedes saben que el problema económico es importante. Entonces, pero hay que hacerlos, hay que presentarlos, hay que justificarlos. Y además ellos van dando ayudas económicas, pero hay que dar informes. Y América Latina es muy dada a que hace actividades, pero le cuesta hacer informes de esas actividades, informes como piden estos organismos internacionales. Además hay un programa de FDI muy, muy interesante que uno tiene que aprovecharlo, y ya América Latina, que antes no utilizaba este programa de educación continua de FDI, ya ha sido beneficiada Costa Rica, Guatemala, Bolivia, Paraguay, Panamá, Colombia y Uruguay. Eso es importante. O sea, no solamente ir a las reuniones de FDI, a sus asambleas, sino mandar informes, aplicar a los proyectos, utilizar los iconos, conocer los conceptos, revisarlos y llevar todo esto a los gremios, a las academias y a los ministerios. O sea, que es como una triada que es importante que cada uno sepa que tiene una parte muy importante para lograr estos desafíos y metas para la visión 2030. Nosotros sufrimos la pandemia como el mundo entero lo sufrió. América Latina fue muy golpeada. Con la pandemia nos dimos cuenta que había una gran crisis en el sector sanitario y también el de la educación. Las escuelas no estaban habilitadas, el sistema de internet no estaba bien, el sistema de salud era escaso. Todo lo vivió, pero el mundo entero, pero América Latina, nos dimos cuenta por reuniones que sostuvimos de cómo se estaban enfrentando cada uno, y habían países más organizados, pero otros menos organizados. Eso nos llevó a que hicimos una campaña de sensibilización para la visión 2030 entre nosotros los gremios, con el compromiso que cada uno de los presidentes y delegados fuera vocero en su institución para que conocieran y se sensibilizaran sobre la visión 2030. Que saben que el eslogan es proporcionar una salud bucodental óptima para todos. Además, eso nos llevó también a participar en una mesa virtual iberoamericana desarrollada en el 22 de junio del 21 en el marco de Expo Dental Scientific Congress en IFEMA, en donde participó España y Portugal y los países de Latinoamérica, LARO. Ahí, bueno, ustedes ven, estuvo participando España, Portugal, Bolivia, Brasil, Chile, Argentina, México, Nicaragua, Panamá, Colombia, Costa Rica, donde nosotros analizamos todos los pilares y cada uno de los presidentes tuvo oportunidad de decir cómo estaba afrontando cada uno de los pilares, en qué momento estaban, era como un diagnóstico de cómo estaba cada uno de estos países para poder hacer un plan de acción y un programa para irnos movilizando y poder nosotros lograr de una forma medible cómo íbamos alcanzando los objetivos de esta visión 2030. Fíjense que es importante, tan importante, tener los conceptos claros. Hubo cambios, hay cambios en la salud bucodental, cambios que quizás algunos países de Latinoamérica todavía están con definiciones un poco anticuadas, sobre todo en la academia. Entonces, cuando vemos que nos piden 3 pilares y además nos exigen a la educación que tengamos un cambio del modelo educativo, que en vez de ser tan curativo, vaya con un estudiante, un egresado que sea resiliente, que se adecue al cambio, que se salga de ese consultorio, que abra las paredes, que abra las ventanas y que planifique más y que ejecute y que eleve esa planificación de la odontología al nivel más alto y no siempre nos ponemos al nivel operativo o ejecutor. Porque hay otro personal que se dedica a cuidar la salud bucal que puede realizar esa actividad de ejecución en los consultorios, sobre todo en la atención primaria de salud. Entonces, tenemos que elevar el concepto de educación de nuestros estudiantes para que salgan con un concepto que un odontólogo universitario debe planificar un programa de salud y que lo tiene que elevar al primer nivel de planificación y organización. Y no que siempre, por eso que a veces en América Latina, el sistema de salud público le es muy costoso realizar odontología porque el odontólogo profesional está ejecutando actividades en el nivel de ejecución. Y este nivel de ejecución, si es una atención primaria y lo dedicamos un poquito más a la educación, a la prevención, nosotros podemos elevar a nuestros egresados a un nivel más de planificación. Entonces yo siempre les digo que fíjense que hasta la definición de salud bucodental cambia y nos lo dice FDI. Y si nosotros somos parte de FDI, nosotros tenemos que tener claros los conceptos. Entonces uno le pregunta a los estudiantes, pues hemos hecho foros de estos y hemos hecho encuestas, ¿qué considera usted que es una salud bucodental? Para poder lograr que sea un profesional resiliente. Y a veces se quedan con esa definición que les dieron en primer año o segundo año y no la saben explicar. Y fíjense que dice FDI, con una definición que fue un consenso de todas las asociaciones y colegios y federaciones que forman parte de FDI, dice, es polifacética, incluye capacidad de hablar, de sonreír, de oler, saborear, tocar, masticar, tragar y transmitir una serie de emociones a través de las expresiones faciales, con confianza y sin dolor, incomodidad ni enfermedad del complejo craneofacial. Abre esa definición de salud bucodental. Así como la abre, también nosotros tenemos que abrir el concepto de lo que es el recurso humano que tenemos que formar. Entonces tenemos unos retos, unos desafíos, y estamos en el 2022 y nos queda poco tiempo. Nosotros tenemos que hacer un cambio y tenemos que utilizar unos indicadores que en el documento de FDI, de la visión 2030, al final del documento hay unos indicadores muy, muy importantes y sencillos en donde uno va mirando y evaluando en cada uno de los pilares en qué momento está y cómo podemos avanzar. Siempre con estrategias entre la regional, porque dentro de la regional lo que hace es crear espacios que faciliten para que países latinoamericanos que están más por debajo puedan subir y tomar ideas. Por ejemplo, nosotros dentro de la Federación Odontológica Latinoamericana, México aportó de que trabajaron una ley que es de Estado, una ley general en donde el Estado mexicano se obliga a darle a todos los niños de las escuelas de México todos los años un kit de un cepillo, una pasta, un kit para su cuidado de salud. Eso pareciera poco, pero es mucho para ciertos países de Latinoamérica donde un gran porcentaje no tiene acceso a los centros de salud. También en esta mesa, los representantes de los colegios profesionales y asociaciones de dentistas de Iberoamérica coincidieron todos, después que ellos hicieron sus presentaciones, que la educación es el pilar principal del futuro de la odontología. Entonces, ese es un mensaje directo para nosotros los de la academia. Nosotros no podemos seguir enseñando, adiestrando tantas técnicas a nuestros estudiantes, sobre todo de pregrado. Nosotros tenemos que hacer el cambio del modelo, ese curativo, al modelo holístico integral. Entonces, ellos, como punto ellos, para poder expandir a todas las prioridades locales, regionales y nacionales, ellos insistieron que hay 4 cosas necesarias que se tienen que hacer: prevención y detección temprana de la enfermedad, atención disponible cerca de los hogares, que sea asequible y accesible, porque todos se van a las ciudades, todos los odontólogos se van a las ciudades y los campos y las zonas urbanas quedan sin la relación necesaria del equipo que atiende atención primaria. Eso, mejores resultados en términos de salud bucodental a costes menores y unas plataformas convergentes para concienciar sobre la importancia de la salud bucodental. Tenemos también que sumarnos al grupo de salud de la atención primaria. Hay que incorporar a los maestros a las escuelas. Eso era un tema que nosotros habíamos abordado así, la enfermedad y la prevalencia. Y no sé, el programa de escolar en algunos lugares ha disminuido porque las escuelas también se vieron cerradas, bueno, por la pandemia, etc. Además, tuvimos la invitación como regional, como facultad de odontología de la Universidad de Panamá y otras universidades como Estados Unidos, Argentina, Colombia, Perú, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panamá y Chile, de participar en el seminario del continente americano, la salud global, los ODS y la odontología. Este seminario es una visibilización de todo y una sensibilización, porque escuchamos a expertos que nos dicen por dónde andamos, cuáles son las cifras de Latinoamérica y nos dan estrategias. Son expertos en este tema y debemos nosotros tratar de trazar, incluirlos dentro de nuestras estrategias regionales. Además, la regional latinoamericana está participando en una acción llamada DOS, Call for Action, liderada por la OA. Este enfoque se discute y se presenta un consenso latinoamericano de enseñanza en cariología en Latinoamérica. Esto es muy importante porque responde al Plan de Acción Global para el 2022 de la resolución WHA 74-5. El objetivo es lograr un consenso sobre competencias principales y específicas en cariología, porque ¿quién enseña la caries? No, que es una asignatura que debe ser transversal, pero de repente tanta técnica y dejan de hablar de la caries, de la enfermedad, sino que caen en la especialidad. Y después, ¿quién enseña caries? Nadie enseñaba caries. Entonces, esto fue un trabajo arduo que participó expertos importantes de Latinoamérica y estamos participando en ellos y hay equipos de trabajo importantes. Hay paneles de expertos de las instituciones, OFEDU Dual, que es lo que las escuelas y las facultades de América Latina y el Caribe, FOLA, que es la Federación Odontológica Latinoamericana, LARO, también están participando, ALODIP, Grupo de Caries de ADR, que es la Asociación Internacional de Estudios de Investigación, Grupo de Odontología de ADR, ACODEP, ACP, FOC, Única, ese es un grupo de trabajo, también otro panel de expertos de facultades que llevan los programas de odontología, también están la FDI, también está participando, la Academia Americana de Cariología, y todos ellos estamos haciendo un trabajo que tenemos todo un año en donde estamos presentando, participando y haciendo unas encuestas y se usa una metodología que se basa en un método llamado Delphi, estableciéndose acuerdo mínimo el 80% para competencias principales y específicas que debe tener este curso de cariología. Ya hay una conclusión que va a ser presentada en septiembre en la Universidad del Bosque en Bogotá. Además, la primera mesa iberoamericana de Visión 2030 que se realizó de manera online tuvo tal impacto a nivel internacional que cuando IFEMA hizo su segunda feria, pero ya de modo presencial, invitó a Laro a una segunda mesa iberoamericana tratando nuevos avances en la odontología digital. Ahí participó España, Portugal, Perú, Chile, Argentina, México, Panamá, Colombia, Paraguay y Uruguay, y cada uno de estos países hizo un informe cómo se estaba presentando la odontología de forma digital en cada uno de sus países, cuáles eran sus desafíos, cuáles eran las metas, cuáles eran, dónde estaban sus avances y qué ellos consideraban que si era importante la odontología digital. Se llegaron a unas conclusiones y se hizo un análisis si era viable y alcanzable para los países iberoamericanos este tipo de odontología digital que definitivamente minimiza errores en el quehacer odontológico, también minimiza el tiempo, pero por su costoso, cuesta mucho los aparatos, la tecnología, eso hace que sea inaccesible a la mayoría de la población. Entonces, el desafío es que hay una resistencia al cambio. El coste de la inversión era otro desafío que se marcó mucho en la reunión. Falta una legislación clara, posibles conflictos de intereses y la necesidad de actualizar la formación en esta área. Retos. Nos enfrentamos ahí, llegamos a un común acuerdo que la formación de los profesionales en las nuevas tecnologías, la optimización de los recursos y la aplicación de la transformación digital era bueno para obtener un mejor diagnóstico y tratamiento de los pacientes, pero también como que perdíamos ese aspecto, esa ontología más humanista, más centrada en la educación y la prevención, que también se puede abordar, como dijo el doctor que me presidió en la presentación, en la telemedicina. O sea, sí, a través de la telemedicina también se puede abordar educación y prevención. Pero bueno, hubo varios planteamientos sobre esto. Bueno, y nosotros siempre estamos atentos y tenemos reuniones como regionales en donde en cada momento nos trasladamos a algún país de nuestro grupo y tratamos de compartir y apoyar en sus actividades de salud bucodental. Vamos a las escuelas, nos explican de manera presencial. Claro, con la pandemia eso se ha disminuido, pero tratábamos de escoger un país por año, o cada 2 países por año, para visitarlos, para apoyarlos y para tener diferentes foros, llevando, sobre todo, utilizando estos indicadores, y los temas de los foros siempre son temas que nosotros vamos buscando, como cáncer bucal, el tabaquismo, el uso de los fluoruros, también el recurso humano, cómo se maneja el talento del recurso humano, su formación. Así que bueno, sobre todo, no perder de vista que tenemos un gran compromiso, que es proporcionar una salud bucodental óptima, que es una meta de todos. Y muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, doctora Lupe, por la excelente conferencia que nos ha permitido escuchar de primera fuente y el trabajo que está haciendo la FDI en la región latinoamericana. Yo quiero agradecer a la FDI por esta definición de salud bucal que nos propone, que hace una transformación de un odontólogo enfocado en la enfermedad a uno enfocado en la salud y el impacto que tiene la salud bucal en la calidad de vida. Ha sido algo que yo felicito y que nosotros recibimos con mucho gusto desde nuestra visión en la salud pública. También gracias por compartir las oportunidades que nos da la FDI y los enfoques que se están promoviendo en Latinoamérica al cual es bueno involucrarse, adscribirse, comprenderlo mejor como ha mencionado, y como profesores que somos universitarios, promover que nuestros odontólogos tengan no solo una visión en su atención clínica y local de la comunidad, sino que en comprender el contexto latinoamericano y mundial de lo que es el rol de nuestra profesión. Muchas gracias, doctora Lupe. Bueno, a continuación, the following talk will be in English. Please activate the simultaneous translation. If you have any question, please follow the steps provided in the chat in Spanish and English. And please also remember to fill out the satisfaction survey. We need your opinion to improve this wonderful experience. La siguiente presentación es del Dr. Mahmood Shah. El Dr. Mahmood es de Pakistán y en este momento él está más o menos a las 3 de la mañana. Por esta razón nos envió su presentación pregrabada. El Dr. Shah es cirujano dental de la Universidad de Sindh, Pakistán. Obtuvo su grado de salud pública y atención primaria de salud en el College Trinity en la Universidad de Dublín, en Irlanda. También obtuvo su posgrado en ortodoncia en la Universidad de California de Los Ángeles, Estados Unidos, y es miembro del Colegio de Médicos y Cirujanos de Pakistán. Actualmente es jefe del Departamento de Ortodoncia en el Mohammed Medical and Dental College, Mirpur Khas, Pakistán. Es propietario CEO del MEA's Medical Center en Karachi, Pakistán. El Dr. Shah es el presidente de la Asociación Dental de Pakistán. Actualmente es el presidente de la Federación Dental del Pacífico Asiático de la FDI. Y por eso además, como la doctora Lupe, es el presidente del área Pacífico Asiático de la FDI. El Dr. Shah también es miembro electo del Comité de Salud Pública de la Federación Dental Internacional. Ahora los invitamos a escuchar la presentación del Dr. Shah.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Mahmood Shah. I am President of the Asia Pacific Regional Organization of the FDA. I am thankful to Dr. Lilian, who's head section of dentistry and dental public health, University of Utah, for inviting me to share my views on the FDA Vision 2030 and what are my thoughts on this as President of the Asia Pacific Regional Organization. Now, to start with, first of all, let's see what the visions are. The FDA vision has got 3 pillars. The first pillar is the universal coverage for oral health by the year 2030. What does it say? It says that the universal oral health coverage, which is an ambitious concept, requires strong government support with better health financing schemes and management of the oral healthcare workforce with greater attention to health management and community-based caregivers. Oral health, as we know, is an integral part of overall health and has a direct impact on people and their lives. Better oral health facilities support people by giving them a better work output in terms of education and employment and prevent people from being pushed into poverty. Early detection of oral diseases has contributed to less expenditure on their treatment. Locally, optimal and culturally sensitive oral healthcare services delivered through an adequately resourced and well-governed health system hold the potential to address the multifarious oral health challenges, especially if supported by pro-oral health policies in other sectors as well. The basic package of oral healthcare will vary from country to country. This is very important because all countries cannot be measured by the same yardstick. So the basic package of oral healthcare will vary from country to country and region to region. depending on the type of oral conditions most prevalent in a particular country, the level of primary healthcare services available, and the level of economic development of a country. This is most important to recognize these factors. Policymakers often hear parallel voices from different advocacy, think tank, and research groups, and it becomes difficult for them to ascertain on what piece of information they should act. FDI represents the world's national dental associations and specialist groups and can effectively provide solutions and a roadmap to national governments on how to strengthen oral health systems and enhance oral health care. Partnership with other public health advocacy groups will provide the necessary ammunition and recognition to closely align oral health to general health issues and call for a unified action. So basically, this constitutes the first pillar of the FDI Vision 2022. Now, coming to the second pillar, which is integrating oral health into the general health and development agenda. The overreaching goal of the second pillar is that by 2030, FDI believes that oral and general person-centered healthcare are integrated, leading to a more effective prevention and management of oral diseases and improved oral health and well-being. What does this mean? It means that faced with the overwhelming challenge presented by the increase in the burden of non-communicable diseases worldwide, it is imperative that there is a major refocusing of global health systems on prevention. This will require effective implementation of integrated strategies that address the shared social and commercial determinants of health. Untreated oral disease accounts for a considerable fraction of the non-communicable disease burden, and it is imperative that oral healthcare services are integrated into the healthcare system worldwide if a reduction in this burden is to be achieved. In addition, all health professionals will need to have much greater awareness of the importance of oral health to overall health and well-being, and the role that they as well as oral health professionals have in achieving this for the populations they serve. Achieving this vision will require much more effective advocacy on the part of oral health professionals for the importance of good oral health and emphasizing the role that health professionals and society at large have for achieving this goal. The third and the last pillar of the FDI Vision 2030 is building a resilient oral health workforce for sustainable development. The overreaching goal is that by 2030, oral health professionals will collaborate with a wide range of health workers. All of them have to collaborate to deliver sustainable, health needs-based and people-centered healthcare. Now, in a nutshell, what does that mean? It means that globally, there is a strong recognition that health resources for health are fundamentally important to deliver effective care accessible to all people. This includes, in particular, a focus on prevention, screening for and monitoring of systemic health conditions, environmentally friendly practices, and an appropriate responsible use of technology that benefit patients. Successful oral health resource and workforce planning is critical to the sustainability of a healthcare system and should be developed in close cooperation between governments, educators, and the oral health profession, as this planning encompasses the delivery of the right care in the right place at the right time by the right number of people to those most in need. Now, having talked about the FDI 3 pillars for Vision 2033, I have devised my proposal as the APRO president, and these basically concern the primary dental care, as I believe that primary dental care is the cornerstone which covers all the 3 pillars of the Vision 23, because without primary dental care and without primary health care, we cannot achieve any of the goals or all the three goals collectively. The bottom line remains the primary dental care. So therefore, it is recommended that in order to maximize dental public health and preventive dentistry on the macro level globally, and to reduce preventable dental and oral diseases like dental caries, periodontal diseases, oral cancers, I would recommend as APRO president that number one, we need to determine the current prevalence of the above diseases in the APRO region as well as the other regions of the world. That is the ARO, African region, the NARO, North American region, the European region, as well as the Latin American region as a yardstick and a reference point. First of all, we need to have this database that what is the reference point in the APRO and NARO and ARO region and other regions. And this will give us the data and the yardstick and the reference point for our planning. Number two, devise and execute primary dental care public health programs according to the disease patterns through individual countries and individual organizations like APRO and National Dental Associations of different countries of the APRO. As even individual regional organization countries, disease patterns vary and they have different and diverse oral disease patterns as per their socio-economic conditions, status and their GDPs. For example, in the APRO region, the disease patterns in a developed country like Singapore would vary very much from a country like, say, Afghanistan or Bhutan or Nepal. So you have different categories according to the economic status, and these economic status determine the oral health status of that particular region and the particular country. From these, we go on to devising and encouraging prevention-oriented dental curriculums also for production of relevant competencies, preferably in close cooperation with the World Health Organization and bodies like your body, which also promote these kind of health messages. Now, what do we mean by relevant competencies? By relevant competencies, we mean that the dentist or the paramedical, paradental forces which are produced are relevant to the problems of that particular country. We do not want competency trained for USA to work in a country like Afghanistan. So it has to be relevant to the needs of the people, and the competency or the manpower which is relevant to the third pillar of the FDI should recognize and should be compatible with the problems they face and the problems, oral health problems, which they would need to solve. Then evaluate the ongoing macro level oral diseases prevention programs every 3 years and readjust, realign the projects according to the goals achieved. This would be the evaluation of the project which you undertake. You undertake the project and you revisit, evaluate it like after 3 years or 4 years and see whether from the yardstick initially, where have you achieved? And from then you readjust or realign the projects if they are the desired goals are not being achieved. And if the desired goals are being achieved, you go around that path. If it is not being achieved, then you realign the goals. Then we need to devise policies about the primary dental care provisions and primary healthcare workers in countries where the dentist to population ratio exceeds a threshold level. For example, a threshold level is like 1 dentist to 30,000 people. So if that is the threshold level of 1 dentist to 50,000 people, and if the threshold level increases, then you cannot just be content with producing dentists and dental specialists. You need to have primary dental care and primary healthcare worker force also. Now, I know in many countries this is a controversial thing to say, but this is the ground reality. This is how things work. And if you cannot produce enough dentists, and if the community needs a lot of care, then how do you provide primary care? This is the only way forward, that you should have primary dental care workers. Guidelines as incorporated in the primary dental care projects. This will help millions of people to take the lead in caring for their oral health and inculcate confidence in their indigenous resources through involvement, especially in the APRO region. Now, once we follow these guidelines as I provided, what will happen that this will help millions of people to take the lead in caring for their own health and inculcate confidence in their indigenous resources, confidence in the individual governments through involvement of different healthcare projects, and which are primarily cost effective and provide for producing relevant competencies. Then, in these projects, one thing which we normally neglect is teledentistry. Teledentistry as a tool for dental health education can play a major role, as in every nook and corner of the world, even in the remotest parts of APRO, you can find internet connection, and teledentistry can provide a major role in providing dental health education. And one thing which I would like to emphasize is that dental health education should be on a constant basis. It has to be on a constant basis. It should not be on a fleeting basis. If you give a message and then you forget about that message for 2 months, then it is all gone and forgotten. It has to be on a repeated basis. And in this regard, even the health or the religious places like the mosques in Muslim countries and the churches, they should also be involved in giving oral health prevention messages and dental health education for the masses of especially neglected areas. Just to let you know that APRO alone consists of 60% population of the world, and billions of people reside in underdeveloped and developing countries like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Fiji, India, Indonesia, Iraq, Iran, Laos, Mongolia, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Solomon Islands, Sri Lanka, Syria, Tonga, Vanuatu, Vietnam, and others. There are many affluent countries as well. I am not going to go into the details of the affluent countries. Of course, we have Singapore, we have Hong Kong, we have Australia, we have New Zealand, but they require a different approach. Basically, what I have devised is an approach which caters to the needs of the underprivileged population, and that is where dental public health and preventive dentistry should be more effective and much more utilized. The primary dental care and primary healthcare projects are also supported by the WHO. They are also supported by the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and primary healthcare is a component of all of these, because any goal, whether the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations or the WHO or the FBI goals, one thing which is common is the primary healthcare approach. So you cannot achieve your targets without this primary healthcare approach. That is what I believe in. Similarly, macro projects undertaken by FDI are very strongly aligned with the SDG and will be are worthy of the true potential of the universal health goals as well as the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. And lastly, I would like to thank the organizers of the symposium, and I'm sorry I was not available to give a live presentation, so I'm giving a recorded presentation. But if there are any questions or anything, my email is with Dr. Lilian, and if anyone has any question, you can correspond with me through email, and I shall respond to you. With this, I will take your leave, and I thank you all, ladies and gentlemen.
Agradecemos la presentación del Dr. Cha, quien pudo participar con nosotros a través de la grabación y quedó abierto a recibir nuestras preguntas. A continuación los dejo con la profesora Lilian Pinzón.
Bueno, excelentes presentaciones las de hoy. Muchas gracias a todos los que han presentado y han compartido todo su conocimiento con nosotros. Excellent presentations today, and every time we have this seminar, we always impressed with the speakers. Thank you so much for your time and all the knowledge and experience that you're sharing with us. Now we're gonna read some of the questions. And at the moment, we don't have Dr. Shah. He's in Pakistan and it's probably like 4-something a.m. there. And Dr. Watt, it was really late in London as well, so he got disconnected. But we still have Dr. Ola and Dr. Lupe here, so we ask the questions to them. So let me start with one question that was asked by, can't find it, Dr. Cornejo. I'm gonna read it first in Spanish, and then I read it in English, and it's for both of you. So whoever wants to go first, go ahead. So in Spanish, Dr. Cornejo says, un importante determinante comercial de la salud oral y general es el consumo de tabaco que promueve la industria. Un reciente estudio lo ha revelado como la primera causa atribuible de riesgo de cáncer. ¿Qué estrategia promovería desde la odontología? Ahora en inglés. An important commercial determinant of oral and general health is industry, such as promoting tobacco use. A recent study has revealed it is the first attributable cause of cancer risk. What strategy would you promote from dentistry? Who wants to go first? ¿Quién quisiera?
Well, can I pass a comment on that? Can you hear me?
Please go ahead, Dr. Olaya.
Thank you very much. In World Dental Federation and in African Regional Organization of the FDI, we've realized and recognized the dangers in use of tobacco as one of the main causes of oral diseases. And as a result of that, we have a project which we're undertaking right now in a public health committee, which we call the Tobacco Cessation Project, where we teach strategies whereby patients that get into our facilities are taught primarily about the dangers of tobacco, the use of tobacco, and then strategies by which we can assist them to stop the use of tobacco as much as possible. And one of the methods is also by a form of substitution, so to say. We talk about the 5 A's and the 5 R's. It will take a little while if I'm going to go into details of that, but by and large, I'm just trying to make us understand that we know the dangers of the use of tobacco in causation of a lot of oral diseases, and we have formulated projects which we call tobacco cessation projects, which are now being executed in many of the national dental associations in FDI and especially in African Regional Organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ola. Lupe, ¿quieres contestarla también, por favor?
Sí. Sí, mira, en la regional latinoamericana hemos hablado, hay varias campañas para lo del cáncer. El cáncer oral y definitivamente una de las causas más importantes del tabaco, el uso del tabaco, el sexo oral, el alcohol y las facultades en general en Latinoamérica. En la ficha clínica se pone de que si el paciente usa el tabaco. pero nos quedamos solamente en marcar esa situación en la historia médica o en los hallazgos, pero no incorporamos una terapia en las facultades para parar este hábito. Entonces, ya hay en las reuniones que hemos realizado con Iberoamérica, España nos ha dado todo un protocolo para llevar a las facultades latinoamericanas todo un protocolo para que el estudiante de odontología no solamente marque que el paciente usa tabaco, sino un protocolo que él debe realizar para incidir de que ese paciente deje ese uso del tabaco, con diferentes estrategias. O sea, es un protocolo, es una capacitación, pero creo que es más incidir en eso. No sé si Iris también, porque sé que Chile presentó un proyecto muy avanzado que ellos tienen, Saca la Lengua, sobre el cáncer, y sé que Chile, bueno, siempre nos da pautas muy de avanzada. Pero lo último es que tenemos un protocolo que queremos presentar a las facultades latinoamericanas para que el estudiante de odontología comience a incidir en el cese del uso del tabaco.
Muchas gracias, doctora Salazar. La siguiente pregunta es para el doctor Ola y después tenemos una para la doctora Salazar. ¿Okay? La voy a leer en inglés porque tenemos la traductora. Es muy importante, un aviso parroquial. Por favor, ayúdenos con las encuestas. Please help us with the surveys. That's the only way that we can improve this space. We need your opinion, please. And I'm going to read the question in English and our translator is going to help us translating. So please go ahead and change the channel in the interpretation and set it up in the language that you prefer. So, Dr. Ola, do you believe that it's possible to carry out education on prevention in dentistry in addition to teledentistry?
Please take it again. I didn't hear you properly. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you believe it is possible to carry out tele-education on dental prevention?
Yeah. One of like I explained when I was doing my presentation, the main crux of teledentistry first is oral health education. That is the main component. And we believe that once there is a good internet facility and mobile phone, we say teledentistry because you don't have to be present with whoever you are trying to reach at the same location. You can actually be at any location in the world, and then a group of people may be gathered who are supposed to be educated about oral health. And apart from that, once you have an internet medium and mobile phone, and then a server, so to say, as a matter of fact, the privacy of the patient or the subject is also preserved because there's what we call a unique identifying code, which can be assigned to specific individuals. But if you're going to talk to them as a large group, they can be present in a particular location, and you can actually reach them via the mobile device, so to say, once there's internet facilities. And you teach them about good oral health, how to take care of the mouth. And then if you have present at the location oral healthcare workers, they can help with some demonstrations to the people that are gathered or to specific individuals who need oral health care. And even in some instances, they can be referred to nearby facilities for proper treatment when it is necessary and essential. So the field of teledentistry, the application of the field of dentistry is limitless. And it's an evolving field which we're beginning to explore to bridge the gap and be able to reach out to, so to say, less privileged population about oral health care. And the main primary focus is oral health education, and then other parts of dental care can also be instituted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ahora le voy a hacer la pregunta a la doctora Salazar en español. Y esta es una pregunta de A. Ortega. Doctora Salazar, ¿cree usted que el cambio en el enfoque preventivo de la odontología que se promueve en Latinoamérica debería comenzar con cambios en los programas de estudios de la carrera de odontología?
Sí, eso definitivamente tenemos que hacer una transformación curricular. Definitivamente. La academia tiene que hacer una transformación y nos lo está pidiendo la realidad de cómo está nuestro pueblo y cómo está nuestra sociedad en cuanto a la salud bucodental. Nosotros, si seguimos haciendo y formando nuestros estudiantes de la misma manera, vamos a encontrar los mismos resultados. Y la sociedad nos está pidiendo otros resultados. Tenemos que hacer otras cosas. Entonces ya tenemos que hacer una transformación. Muchas facultades de Latinoamérica ya están en esto, ya están planteando nuevos planes de estudio, en donde, como les digo yo, el modelo ese curativo todavía no lo podemos quitar porque nuestras sociedades están enfermas, tanto los niños, las mujeres, los adultos, los viejos, o sea que nosotros casi hemos fracasado. Entonces, la realidad de cómo está Latinoamérica con nuestra pobreza, con nuestras limitaciones, con nuestros problemas socioeconómicos, culturales, etcétera, nos presenta un gran reto y tenemos que hacer cambios. Entonces, ahora nos están pidiendo competencias específicas, genéricas, y eso es lo que tenemos que abordar, la academia. Pero la academia no puede quedarse solamente oyéndose a la academia. La academia tiene que escuchar a los empleadores. La academia tiene que escuchar a la sociedad. Entonces, por eso nos exigen que antes de hacer esta transformación curricular, nosotros tenemos que escuchar qué necesitan nuestros pueblos, qué necesitan los empleadores, qué necesitan los servicios de salud, qué esperan de nuestros egresados.
Bueno, tenemos otra pregunta, es un poco larga, pero si ustedes están de acuerdo, se las pregunto. I have another question. It's a little bit long, but if you agree, I will ask the question. Is that okay? Okay, I'm going to ask it in Spanish. Dr. Ola, please set up your translator to listen in English, okay? Because I'm going to read it in Spanish. It's long and it's in Spanish. So it's about teleodontología. It's about teledentistry, okay? En Chile tenemos una estrategia financiada por el Ministerio de Salud, interconsultas electrónicas a odontólogos especialistas en patología oral distante basado en fotografías clínicas con más de 6,000 pacientes evaluados. Esto para la detección temprana de cáncer oral y otras patologías de alto riesgo, entre otros. ¿Qué experiencias nos pueden comentar sobre otras experiencias en Latinoamérica o en el mundo con interconsultas electrónicas con especialistas a distancia, experiencias de promoción de salud en general? Larga, ¿cierto?
Bueno,
es long.
Miren, voy a hablar de una experiencia que se presentó en el último Mesa Iberoamericana, en donde la Sociedad de Cardiólogos Españoles, ellos bajaron una aplicación y la presentaron, en donde esta aplicación ellos practicaron con nosotros y nosotros le metíamos datos de ciertos pacientes con enfermedades como hipertensión para ver qué tipo de medicamento o la dosis era la adecuada, sobre todo en pacientes comprometidos sistémicamente. Esta aplicación está validada por la Sociedad de Cardiólogos Españoles. Uno pone el nombre del paciente, la edad, el sexo, qué medicamento está tomando y la misma aplicación te dice el riesgo y qué medicamento tú de uso odontológico le puedes suministrar a ese paciente para que no haga un efecto adverso a la medicación que él toma. A mí me parece que es una aplicación espectacular. Yo le recomendé a mis estudiantes que la bajaran y no anduvieran preguntándole a Google o a cualquier otra plataforma que no es reconocida, porque esto es de la Sociedad de Cardiólogos Español. O sea, siempre que hagamos telemedicina o algún tipo de esto, primero que tiene que estar fundamentado en una ley, un decreto o una resolución ministerial, como dijo Chile. Además, que si tú te vas a dedicar a dar ese tipo de consultoría a través de algún método digital, tú te tienes que reportar, tú te tienes que adscribir a una base de datos. No puedes andar a la suelta porque puede haber algún problema legal y te van a decir, usted se inscribió en que usted está utilizando este tipo de metodología. Entonces, la ley y el decreto te dice que tú puedes dar algún tipo de consulta de educación y prevención, pero te tienes que registrar. Y somos muy dados a utilizar cualquier medio de chat, de no sé qué, con nuestros pacientes y creemos que eso nos va a amparar legalmente. Eso no nos ampara legalmente. Ustedes, si usan alguna metodología digital, ustedes tienen que ser registrados sea por el ministerio, por lo que diga la ley donde se tienen que registrar. Si no, ustedes andan sueltos y el paciente va a decir, bueno, ese chat sí fue, no fue eso, no me explicó bien. Entonces te tienes que registrar para que tú tengas un amparo legal. Y estas aplicaciones, que son muy efectivas, deben estar validadas por sociedades también que sean idóneos y que sean expertos.
Perfecto, Dr. Salazar. I'm going to ask the last question to both of you. Okay, it's from Dr. Louis Cohen. How do these regional dental associations work to advocate for their government health systems to integrate oral health into national? Y en español, para Lupe, ¿cómo trabajan estas asociaciones regionales que ustedes lideran para abogar por sus gobiernos, ante sus gobiernos por los sistemas de salud? I would like Dr. Ola to answer first. Is that okay? Me gustaría que
Thank you very much. I'm okay. I can answer first. You know, during my presentation, using the Nigerian case as an example, I explained that we have a national oral health policy, which we have tried as much as possible, liaising with the Ministry of Health, incorporates our proposal in that policy into the primary, into the national policy of health in Nigeria. Now, the national oral health policy in various times had been in place, but we realized that it wasn't, maybe by virtue of the lack of political power, wasn't incorporated and was not even implemented at any point in time. So the first time it was ever implemented was in 2012, and it was because we were able to approach some political figures like the Senate President, the Vice President of the nation, and other dignitaries, important dignitaries in the country. And so that National Oral Health Policy was presented at the National Council on Health meeting, where it was then adopted. And then we now had to make a lot of efforts through these political leaders to get it implemented to a particular extent. Even right now, we are doing a revision of that 2012 policy, which was adopted by the government, to inculcate into it situations like occurred during the COVID where, there were restrictions in movement and there were lockdown processes and patients still had to be attended. Emergency dental care still had to be provided. And that was where we're also able to make use of teledentistry to some extent, because we didn't necessarily have to have direct contact with the patient. The patient could be reached by the methods of internet facilities and all that, like I explained earlier. So, by the way, if you want to get oral health incorporated into general health, there has to be that strong political will and power. So it varies from country to country, but it is very important because it's the government that legislates. No matter how strong your policy is, if the government does not buy into it, there's no way it's going to work. So it works hand in hand. So you must have a policy, which is a statement of how oral healthcare delivery system will be carried out in the country. And like in the 2012, in the 2012 proposal that we made, we tried to get oral healthcare incorporated into the primary healthcare system, whereby as you are, giving primary healthcare to the rural areas, there's a component of it that also, a component of oral healthcare which goes alongside. So that way, you are sure that you get oral healthcare delivered to the rural communities rather than just the urban settings. So it's very important. And I know in a lot of developing nations, there's a problem in this area. And that is why it may be a bit difficult to have a high index of oral healthcare delivery. And so there has to be a legal framework, which is the National Oral Health Policy, which goes alongside with national healthcare policy, so that the two, the dental or oral healthcare, goes hand in hand with the general healthcare. And you're able to drive home the point of prevention, especially, and then you can now start talking about other parts of oral healthcare delivery. But prevention has to be a major part of that national policy, national oral health policy, where we talk about the basic care, basic package of oral care. And of course, that has to do with scaling and polishing, oral health education, and all aspects of prevention, so to say. So it's a very important tool that has to be formulated, and the government has to be carried along to ensure that it is properly implemented. Because even if you have the policy, national oral health policy, and the government does not buy into it, it will not be implemented. And that is the major problem in a lot of developing countries. Thank you.
Doctora Lupe, ¿quiere hacer algún comentario sobre la pregunta?
Sí, en la regional latinoamericana, nosotros tenemos un mecanismo de acción para poder ayudar a los países que nos los solicitan después de foros, en donde ellos nos solicitan de que los acuerdos que se lleguen en esos foros, ellos quieren que se les haga llegar a sus ministros de salud. Entonces eso llevó de que el mecanismo es que cada comunicado, después de un esfuerzo de un foro sobre recursos humanos, sobre convención minimata, sobre fluoruros, sobre barreras de bioseguridad mínimas que se debían llevar en la pandemia, todos los comunicados de la regional, nosotros tenemos una base de datos de los ministros de salud de cada uno de los países y se los hacemos llegar con las recomendaciones que salieron durante el foro, para que ese esfuerzo llegue a estos ministros, que siempre es una presión, y muchas veces también le hemos solicitado a FDI que nos den apoyo con cartas modelo que ellos tienen para dirigirlo a los ministros, para que vean que las políticas mundiales sobre la odontología, el uso de tal cosa que afecta, que ciertos países no se les da ese tipo de recursos. Entonces la presión esa internacional y regional siempre hace un tipo de presión y que favorece. Nos ha resultado, ese es el mecanismo que estamos usando.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias por las preguntas y respuestas. Thank you so much for the questions and answers. And now, Iris, you want to continue?
Sí, bueno, agradecemos a los expositores por sus excelentes presentaciones, hemos aprendido mucho, los felicitamos, los instamos a seguir trabajando fuertemente como lo han hecho en África, en Latinoamérica, en Europa, en Asia. Agradecemos la asistencia y la participación en el seminario, a todos los asistentes también, y los invitamos a nuestra 7ª sesión, que será el próximo miércoles 28 de septiembre de 2022, en el cual cubriremos el Objetivo de Desarrollo Sostenible de las Naciones Unidas número 4, que es educación de calidad, y el tema a tratar será educación en odontología durante la pandemia y las perspectivas post-pandemia. En esta sesión tendremos el placer de escuchar a los decanos y decanas de las 9 universidades que participan en este seminario. Recuerden también que el seminario podrá visualizarse nuevamente en el canal de YouTube de la Facultad de Odontología de la Universidad de Chile. Y por último, por favor, recuerden completar nuestra encuesta de satisfacción. Necesitamos su opinión para mejorar nuestra maravillosa experiencia de seminario. Nos vemos pronto.
We appreciate your attendance and participation in the seminar and invite you to our next session, which is going to be number 7 on Wednesday, September 28, 2022, in which we will cover the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is quality education, and the topic to be discussed by all our deans from the 9 universities is going to be education in dentistry during the pandemic and perspectives for the post-pandemic. Please remember to help us filling out the survey. We need your opinion to improve this space. Also, remember that this seminar from today, you can find it in YouTube channel from Universidad de Chile. Thank you so much to our partners from Universidad de Chile. It's been a fantastic experience to work with you all, with also the Dr. Platero from Universidad de Mendoza, Dr. Ana Verónica from Universidad de Chile, Marité and Carmen, which are our translators, Alejandro, which is our IT, and obviously Iris, which is a wonderful partner in this seminar. Also Lina, Dr. Ola, thank you so much for being awake until so late and sharing with us, and Dr. Lupe as well. Thank you so much to all the people that are here still listening to us, and I see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, you all.
Bye.